the US Congo Peace Mineral deal. It is a big deal. Is it a big deal? I think so. Some people may say it is a big deal. Some people may say it is not a big deal. You know what? Let's talk about it. Let's see whether it is a big deal or it's not a big deal, right? Okay. Hello, guys. Hi. Balozi Ezrak here. As you already know, I'm always happy and I'm always so pleased when I know you are following this podcast. I hope it's not the first time you are here, and I will be also pleased to know that, it is your first time here. Let me tell you a little bit about us. Well, we are a podcast that discuss what connects and disconnects us. We exchange common sense thoughts. We learn from you, you learn from us. Nobody's complete in this world. We talk about things that you may already know, things that you have heard, or things you may think that you know, but the reality is you don't know exactly. We focus more on the truth sense of something, not rumors, no whatever, no wa'ala Nigeria people will tell you. It's all about what you are not being told. Or when you're worried, you're not sure, then this is where we come in. Today, we are on US Congo Peace Mineral deal. I just want to point out that this is a continuation of an episode that I already produced. In the previous episode, I said I was going to answer two questions about the US and the DRC mineral peace deal. Therefore, I discussed the first question, and the first question was that Congolese government sold the DRC to the US in a USA Congo Peace Mineral deal, something like that. So I thought I would do a separate episode, because what we're trying to do is to produce long episodes, but at the same time also produce a small episode. Small episode, we answer specific questions. I produced a long episode with the title of whether Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, is a blessing or a curse to the DRC and Rwanda. In that episode, I discussed a long history of Congo and Rwanda, their relationship, the issues between these two countries, and I provided a lot of insight that you may not know. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of stories. You hear a lot in media. But in that long episode, you can learn a lot about the Congo and Rwanda. But today, we are going to look at why the US Congo Peace Mineral deal is a problem to some. This is a very interesting topic. As you know, the US, the giant of the world. Congo, one of the giant countries in Africa. Congo is a very large country, and many other things that make it a giant. I'm going to mention that in this episode. So this is what we are going to look at today. Let me start by giving you a brief about Congo, right? Briefly, we are talking about the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There are two Congos. This is the big Congo, the DRC Congo Zaire Democratic Republic of the Congo. That is one country. Then there is a Congo Brazzaville, which is more like a small country than the big Congo. That's the difference, if you don't know that. Today we are focusing on the Congo, which is in the heart of Africa, right? Democratic Republic of the Congo is the richest country on earth in terms of mineral resources. You may probably already know that, but is among some of the poorest countries on earth in terms of development. Another way I will look at Congo is like a beautiful lady in your area that's almost every man would love to be with. Or it's like a piece of land that everyone wants a piece. Imagine that. You just think about anything that almost everybody would love to have a piece of. Or another way we can say Congo is like a sleeping beast that if you wake it up, it will transform the world. Because what Congo possess mean a lot to the world. It's a country not like others. It is a country that has almost any natural thing you can desire to have. I don't mean buildings that you are building or anything that a human being has constructed. No, I mean great things that a human being cherish or want or need or love are in Congo. These are natural things. It's kind of like a blessing. However, this beautiful country, this giant sleeping beast, has been under several conflicts for many years. The history of this country has been defined by wars and conflicts. So many terrible stories has happened to this country, but it's a country that always tries to stand up. Millions of Congolese have been displaced. Millions of Congolese have been killed. You are talking about more than 7 million. The number goes even to 15 millions of people. The number is not clear. It just means there have been many Congolese killed. And all this led to poor governance of the country. Through this conflict, Congo was able to see African First World War when Rwanda invaded Congo in 1996 and also in 1998. I said I'm not gonna go back to the history, and since this invasion of Rwanda to the DRC, many rebel and terrorist groups were formed in the country, and since then the country has been through several chaos. Sometimes things goes quiet and life will continue, because as you know, the part that is mostly affected by conflict is the Kivu side, which is more east of the country. So in order to understand why the US Congo Peace Mineral deal is a problem to many, we have to look at certain people or certain parties that have played a role in the destruction of Congo. This is what will give you an understanding of why so many people, so many parties see this deal as a problem. In the media, people talking, there are parties that have tried to do everything they can to try and make sure that this deal doesn't take place. There have also been several failed coups to try to topple the government, and all this is just because the president who is in power at the moment, Felix Tshisekedi, decided to see this through, to make sure that what has been happening in the DRC for the last 30 years doesn't continue to happen again. He wants to silence the guns. He wanted to see peace in the country. He wants to see development in the country. He wants to see a Congo that doesn't only has the history of violence, conflict, but the other side of the Congo, because you have two sides. You have a very beautiful side of the Congo, which I just mentioned. Think about this, the richest country on earth in terms of mineral resources, right? And then you have one of the most distracted country on earth in terms of conflict, killings, raping, displacement. So after Rwanda invaded the Congo twice, Rwanda made sure that they had a say in the country. They penetrated the institutions of the Congo. And through this penetration, many organizations, many countries, individual people played a role in making sure that the Congo stay in chaos. Because when Congo stay in chaos, it means the benefit for others, right? When there is a chaos, it means that a country won't be well organized. It means that many investors will decline to go to this country to invest. And when all this is happening, do you know who's benefiting? The other neighboring countries benefit from that. The other people come in the country because they are dealing with people who are not organized, they will benefit from it, right? So organizations, individual people have contributed to the chaos of this country. That is one thing. So now we can look at who have played a role in this country. Our number one party is Rwanda. The government of Rwanda invaded the DRC twice, as I mentioned, in 1996 and in 1998. And since then, the government of Rwanda has been supporting different rebel and terrorist groups in Congo. These rebel and terrorist groups, their jobs was to make sure that the country stay in chaos, disorganized, where the government always worried. And another thing that these terrorists and rebel groups have been doing is to steal the minerals. So they will loot the minerals to Rwanda and then export it to different countries. You have heard all this Paul Kagame talking about this after denying many times about having nothing to do with the minerals of Congo and Congo itself. There are videos where he has admitted that the minerals comes in his country and they end up in different countries of the world. And since then, Rwanda became the largest producer of coltan. Before that, you never heard anything about coltan in Rwanda, but through this chaos, Rwanda benefited from seeing itself developing, attracting investment, attracting tourists, and becoming the biggest producer of coltan and the many other mineral resources that they have been claiming to have, which many of these minerals are said to be coming from the Congo. Another thing that the government of Rwanda did was to use the lobbyings around the world. It means that every time the issue of Congo is brought to light and aiming to condemn Rwanda, Rwanda would use the lobbyings that they have in the US and the other parts of the world to actually make sure that Rwanda is not actually sanctioned or done anything terrible. Another thing that the government of Rwanda has done is to actually work with other countries, such as countries in Europe, France, the UK, the US, and these countries would use their power to make sure that the investment goes to Rwanda. It doesn't matter how many times Rwanda is accused of killing millions of Congolese people. Rwanda remains a country where many countries around the world invest in this country, right? You have seen the promotion of a visit to Rwanda. Countries like Qatar have gone to invest a lot in this country. The government of Rwanda has also used different platforms of media. This includes the international media. If you follow France 24, you will see whenever there is a report about M23 or Rwanda issue, you understand how they report it. They often report it differently from what it is. And that is because the country of France has been committed in supporting Rwanda after they felt Rwanda during Rwanda genocide. And for other things behind the scene, as you know, there are companies of France in different parts of Africa. Rwanda has been able to send the soldiers to make sure that they secure these industries from the local people. So media like BBC, France 24, and many other medias you might know often turn a blind eye on the atrocities that Rwanda commits, whether this is in Rwanda, whether this is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So the media have been doing great things to support Paul Kagame and whatever terrible he has been doing for the last 30 years. What the government of Rwanda also do is to use a lot of influencers, or what we can say people with influence. I already mentioned in terms of countries, when you come to these countries I mentioned, even the presidents are able to stand behind Rwanda. You have seen Macron, the president of France, doing this. Time to times, you have seen the family of Bill Clinton, the first USA president, to fully support the government of Paul Kagame. And all these are powerful people. Other influences in places like Africa, Rwanda has used people with the platforms. For example, if you are somebody who speak aloud on issue about Rwanda and the government of Rwanda, we go behind and buy these influencers to speak on their behalf. You have seen recently, there is a guy called Rutendo Matinyarare. He's a Zimbabwean influencer who was always talking against Rwanda for many years, but recently flew to Rwanda, went and they started shooting videos to show some old mines of Rwanda. And this was the time where the pressure was on Rwanda regarding what they are doing in Congo. And Rwanda was trying to actually show that they have mines, they have all these mineral resources that people always accuse them not to have. So this guy flew there and then start showing video like this. Is now talking a lot about how the conflict in the DRC is about the Rwandese people in Congo who are being discriminated and this and that and that. He's just been talking about all this nonsense, going from A to B. Straight away, this man changed. People were referring to him as a Pan-Africanist. But this is a surprising thing about any people who call themselves Pan-Africanist. They are people who get bought so easily, they switch aside. That's not a Pan-Africanist. Or he was once a Pan-Africanist, bought by the government of Rwanda. Now we don't know who he is anymore, because this guy was doing a great job when he was talking about colonial power in Zimbabwe and the many other parts of Africa. And that's the problem of supporting individual. That's why I always say, don't often focus on supporting individual, but listen to what they say. People shift, people change. Even when you're listening these messages at Andunda Tree, don't just follow me or listen to me as me. Just focus on what I say or what we say here. That's what matters. That's what stays. We as individual can shift, can change side any minute, can be bought. Look, most of these so-called Pan-Africanists, the way they shift shift. Trust me, you'll be amazed. Money talks. Money can be used to buy people, to change people. You have to remember that. And when they are bought, when they change, some people you might not even see or know it. Somebody can be the person you once trusted, but this person can shift and bring you something else. That's why I've always said, don't be a fan. Try to focus on what is real. Use your common sense to unlock the reality behind the scene, behind the people. When people do certain things, question why they're doing that. If somebody offer you something, why is offering you something? You have to always question this. Try to understand things. Don't just go, oh, it's for free, and you think it's for free and you grab it. No, not everything is for free. Not many free things are free things. Right? Somebody was talking about church. Before you know it, is in politics. This doesn't just happen in the vacuum. Think about how human beings function. Another voice that has been supporting Rwanda a lot is Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, who always tried to defend Rwanda because of his relationship with Paul Kagame and the minerals deal that he has in Congo. He has always tried to lean on the same side that I just mentioned, where we say M23 are Congolese who are part of the government because they are being discriminated. This is the story that Rwanda has been telling to justify the chaos in Congo. But the reality is M23 just changed the names and the cause. In 1 minute, Rwanda, we say they are in Congo to go after FDLR. You have heard all this FDLR, FDLR, FDLR. This is just something that they use to give them a justification to go in Congo and carry all this chaos. These are political acts. Rwanda's learned this from other countries such as the US, Israel. Remember when the US invaded Iraq and George Bush was saying that Iraq had mass destructions weapons, and he campaigned about these in order to gain support not just in the US but also around the world. That gave him the justification of him going and invading Iraq. But in reality, there were no mass destruction weapons there. This appeared to be a move that was about the mineral resources of Iraq. And you have seen this happening with Israel and Palestine. Rwanda has also used this idea of justifying the cause. 1 minute they will refuse, they are not in Congo. The other minute they are in Congo to go after FDLR. And for many years they have been going in Congo and turn this FDLR problem as a Congolese problem. The government of Rwanda called Congolese government to sit and discuss with M23, while the government of Rwanda itself is never willing to talk with FDLR, who are the Rwandese people and not supported by Congo. But in contrast, M23 is supported by the same Rwanda. Another big thing that Rwanda has been able to do is corruption. A lot of money have been invested in Congo, where many opposition leaders, individual people, soldiers receive a lot of corrupt money to make sure that Congo continue to be in a chaos. When the city of Goma was taken by M23 this year, they only fought a little bit. The army leaders told the soldier not to fight. They laid all the guns down. This was a very well-equipped army with a lot of military equipment. They left and M23 came and collected everything. And this has been happening. You might have come about Congolese soldiers have escaped the war. These people are not running from the guns. These are corrupt soldiers who receive a lot of money, leave the position for the enemy, and the enemy will come and occupy the area where they were. The only thing they just have to do is to shoot the guns and they look like they fought, but the reality is that they are leaving areas without fighting. This happened in Bukavu and many other areas in Congo. There are few areas where people refuse, like in Uvira, in Fizi, and the other areas of the country where they have refused to lay their guns down. So corruption has been at its highest level. Money was used and continue to be used even to these days in order to make sure that many in Congo stop focusing on the development of the country but focus on their own gain. So that is our number one part that has played a great role in terms of the conflict in Congo. The second is Joseph Kabila Kabange, who is a former president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He was in power for 18 years and he was not willing to leave the power. He had to be pushed out. And what he did during his time, he opened the country to everybody. Different organizations, individual countries served themselves. During his time, he was able to destroy the economy of the country. The country had only a little money at the end of his time. He was unable to build the army. Remember what I said, the army has been very corrupted. Many soldiers were enriching themselves. So for all these years, the people who often fight are the so-called Wazalendo that you perhaps heard about before that. They had a different name. These are younger Congolese who fight to defend their land, particularly when the government is unable to do that. So Joseph Kabila enriched himself. He is now one of the richest in Africa and played a great role in terms of the destruction of Congo. It is during these 18 years in power when many rebel and the terrorist groups were formed, and when Rwanda has had a huge influence in almost every institution of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And Kabila himself stayed on top of almost every institution, and these institutions, rather than serve the country, were serving him. When he left the power and the country, he was under pressure, and he was then involved in other matter where he was accused of supporting rebels. He left the country to try to let things calm down. You also have to know that Joseph Kabila also came with those who invaded the Congo. When Congo was invaded by Rwanda, they used a Congolese. Kabila, the so-called the father, many people don't believe he's his father, was also part of that team. He came from there. Many says he's a Rwandese. For me to say this, I'm trying to show you the link between him and Rwanda, or the president of Rwanda. So he is a president who has been able to tolerate many things that a leader or a president cannot tolerate in his country. Many say he didn't care much about the country. He didn't develop the country, even though the country had a lot of mineral resources. China was able to sign many contracts with Congo, and the idea was to build a lot of roads in the country, but no roads were built, and infrastructure in this country during his time remained very poor. The basic things that are supposed to be transformed, such as school, hospitals, were very poor comparing to what the recent president has done. In a few years' time, the recent president, Felix Tshisekedi, been able to accomplish and pass what Joseph Kabila did in 18 years. And all this, as you know, is never always good for somebody who was there. So he stayed away of the country. He never condemned the M23 or any killings that was happening in the country while he was out of the country. And he decided to go to Rwanda, Goma, and Bukavu in secret. He has many investments in the country. These are investments that are supposed to be for the country, but he made sure that this belonged to him and his family. So as you can see, many of this contract that he made for himself is now unable to control that because he's no longer the president. He has contributed to the chaos in the country. That is our number 2 person. And when I mentioned about the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, there was a times when Joseph Kabila wanted to speak, and it was this man who gave him a platform to speak after being quiet for more than 4 years. They did the meetings, and then he spoke while he was in South Africa, and Thabo Mbeki also spoke against the government of the Congo. You imagine this. A former president of a country that support the Congo, the government of South Africa was supporting the Congo. And Thabo Mbeki is not just a former president of a country, but a former president of the same party that is in power at the moment. But he chose to side himself with a former president of a country, Joseph Kabila, in order to stay on the same side with Rwanda, where he will tell the story of Rwanda, which is this idea of the so-called Rwandese in Congo, Banyamulenge, being discriminated, this being the reason why M23 is fighting. And what Thabo Mbeki show is like what Joseph Kabila done, where a former president of a country is accused accused of being a rebel and terrorist leader, right? Is now the leader of the movement of AFC, which is a movement that is linked to M23. He's said to be the leader of that movement. So you can see the relationship between these two former presidents. And it was during his time where some leaders such as Thabo Mbeki were able to benefit a lot of money in Congo, particularly from minerals. And all these individual organizations, countries we are mentioning, means a lot when you're trying to bring peace, when you're trying to solve something. All these things matter. This is the reason why I'm mentioning all this, and it is important. Remember, we are looking at why the US Congo mineral peace deal is a problem to some or to many, and I'm just trying to show you some individual organizations and countries that have been involved in this country. Then you understand why the US Congo mineral peace deal is a problem to many. So while Joseph Kabila Kanambe was in power, education was very poor. The education in the DRC was broken. People would qualify, but the level of thinking itself was quite low. People were not well educated. Our third part in this list had the politicians and other powerful people in the country. Remember what I said, many politicians, starting with opposition leaders such as Moise Katumbi, who became also a millionaire. Yes, he had money before becoming an actual politician, but while Joseph Kabila Kanambe was in power, this man became the governor of Katanga, which is a place full of mines and minerals. He also became very rich, and at the end, his relationship with Joseph Kabila broke. Moise Katumbi has been trying to stop the US Congo Peace Mineral deal. He's a powerful man. He owned a football club in Lubumbashi called Mazembe, if you have heard about that. And his argument is that there's no minerals in Congo for Congo to provide to discourage the deal to go on. Say that there's no minerals. This is not the time for investment. What Congo need is the dialogue among Congolese people. And many oppositions in the DRC stayed with this idea of there must be a dialogue between politicians. And this has been very surprising and very poor. Ask yourself a question: what kind of talk they want to have with the government? Most of them have stayed in the mafia. Most of these guys have like agents of the external power and have lobbying in the United States of America, and they're using a lot of money to try to distract the development of the US Congo mineral peace deal. So they also have received a lot of money. The corruption I was talking about, the two parliament chambers of the country is run by people who have been in politics for more than 40 years. People like Kamere, Bahati Lukwebo, and many more. These guys have stayed in power. They have not brought any change. They have enriched themselves. Some of them have been in prison because many of these guys, what they do is to steal a lot of money. Because in Congo, somebody can transport $75 million. A lot of cash move around in the country. So many so-called politicians of the country have been working like mercenaries, not working for the development of the country, but for their own gain. There are people who are ready to sell the country just for their own benefit. Opposition leaders and many other groups, individual. You also have the Catholic Church, which has been a very influenced group in terms of the politics of Congo. And the recent leaders of the Catholic Church are very linked and loyal to Joseph Kabila, who also gained their support as they had a say in the country, because whenever there is a political issue in Congo, this church would stand and speak on behalf of the population. But this has not happened since Joseph Kabila left the power. They shifted and appear to be talking more as a group that is defending Rwanda, rebel and the terrorist groups. Every time they come in the media, they appear to be talking on the side of these entities. They too have failed to condemn the movement of M23. They have traveled to Rwanda, in neighboring countries, to Goma, and what they say is they were using this initiative to bring peace. But the reality is this is not true, because the government of the Congo was already advanced in these talks. These guys have appeared to support more the rebels and those who have committed atrocity in the country, as they also gain millions billions of money for themselves. The Catholic Church in the Congo, particularly in Kinshasa, has now become more like a political opposition party rather than a church. They have been able to influence other few churches leaders to bring them on board so that it doesn't look like it's just Catholic Church. They have traveled to Europe, to the US, Qatar. While these talks between the government of the Congo and Rwanda taking place, they were also doing their movement, and their focus seems to be on their pocket. Remember what I said, this is a church with more followers and influence in Congo, so you have to understand the kind of power that these parties are mentioning have or they possess. And I mentioned about some of these politicians who have been in politics for many years. These guys are not willing to leave power, are not willing to leave young politicians to come and occupy the position. What they have done is that they have brought their relatives in the politics and they place their relatives in different key institutions, or when they can't put their relatives, they will place people who can serve them, people who can hide the mafia they do. And when you are talking about the parliament, they will place their relatives in the parliament so that whenever there is an issue that needs to be brought to the attention of the country for the benefit of the country, or that is against them as individual, then these deputies will vote against that. This has been another mafia happening in Congo. So many corrupted elites have stayed in power for many years, and when you listen to them, you can see that they don't carry the country in their hearts, right? They are there to serve the outside force and themselves. The outside force are some of these parties from the outside that I'm mentioning here. And what has been happening is that many of these powerful people in Congo, what they do is, if they had a powerful position in the country, as soon as they lose that, they will either start a rebel or terrorist group in the country, or they will link themselves to that. For example, you have the man who's on top of the terrorist group of AFC, the movement that I said joined M23. This guy by the name of Corneille Nangaa is the leader of this movement at the moment, openly. But on top of that, that's what we are talking about, Joseph Kabila. And the Corneille Nangaa was in charge of the election of 2018 when Joseph Kabila handed the power to Felix Tshisekedi. And when the relationship between Joseph Kabila and Felix Tshisekedi saw, straight away Corneille Nangaa became against the government. The man who was very respected, who had everything in the country, a great job, he even had mines. Remember what I said, in this country, as soon as you gain power, everybody enrich themselves. Everybody have mines. Everybody will occupy this and that and that and that. And Corneille Nangaa then started pushing this rebel movement of AFC, which is Alliances Fleuve Congo, right? Later, they were able to join the M23. And when the people ask why this guy decided to start a rebel movement, a man who's never a soldier, a fighter, or anything like that, he starts saying that the government of Kinshasa is discriminating. And then later, he came and said Felix Tshisekedi never won election. He was only given power. So you have to understand what is happening here. And this has been something that the president of Rwanda has been bullying President Tshisekedi about, saying that he was not voted, he was handed the power. Think about this. A man who was in charge of election, right? And the one who actually proclaimed the election, Felix Tshisekedi, as the president, later comes and say this man was never voted. So now we have to start a rebel movement group to go and topple the government. His aim has been to go and topple the government in Kinshasa. You listen to that. And what he argues that the alliances movement and the M23 come to liberate the Congolese without knowing that whether whatever he is saying about the votes was true. He already showed that he's somebody who cannot be trusted, as he lied to the whole country. And now we want people to trust him because he lost his position of being an election leader. And through this movement, he lost his mind. As the government tried to make sure that they control different things that people were owning or running individually, things that should be for the country. So this guy became a rebel, and his argument was that people are being discriminated. You know, not many people buy into this. While he is liberating people in Goma, Bukavu, and many parts of Congo, they are killing and raping people every day. These are the people supposed to come and liberate protect the nation. Another part that you may say played an important role in Congo is the UN, right? The United Nations peacekeepers have been in Congo for more than 20 years. This is the largest organization in the world in terms of making peace. And the peace in that particular area for the last 30 years has not been found. And another thing you have to understand is that the places mostly affected with a conflict are places with a lot of mineral resources. You have places in the Congo where there's no some of these mineral resources, and these parts of the country are in peace. So you have the UN that has been there for more than 20 years. Peace not found. The Congolese government asked them to leave, but before you know it, they mandated to continue again. As they were planning to leave, M23 continued with the fighting. These distractions means that the UN will be needed in the country. And the UN peacekeepers in Congo have also been accused of carrying a lot of mineral resources in their cars and also giving rebels information. So this is another force. You know the power that the UN has. I'm not saying that the UN is there to do the bad thing or the good thing. I'm just trying to provide you with the information on another large organization that's supposed to found peace that is also in the country and also accused of the wrongdoing. Another part has been the European Union and many countries in Europe, right? For years, they remain silent on the issue of Congo, or sometimes they condemn Rwanda M23 by words, but not of action taken. Many of these countries have stood behind Rwanda, invest a lot in Rwanda, including providing millions of money to support the army of Rwanda. Remember, these are countries that have always accused Paul Kagame of being a dictator and a president who killed millions of people. They brand him with a lot of negative things, but Paul Kagame stayed in power and there is never the pressure to push him out. They invest in Rwanda. They send a lot of events to take place in Rwanda, whether this is sports and so on. They are also benefiting from the mineral resources that come from the DRC to Rwanda and then end up in their hands. The mineral pass through Rwanda and then end up in Europe and many other countries in the world. Paul Kagame said that many times. But remember, countries in Europe are supposed to be the masters of human rights, the masters of peace. And if a president is a dictator doing terrible things, they break up their relationship with that president or that country. This is not the case for Rwanda. For the last 30 years, they have been the backbones of Rwanda. And it is until recently, when pressure increased, there have been a lot of talks that you may have seen in the media where they are talking about trying to cut the military support to Rwanda and so on. Remember how powerful European countries are. So that is another part. Then you have the US, the police of the world, and China. Right? Before Felix Tshisekedi came to power, or before this mineral deal, Kabila opened the door to China, and China benefited from these distractions and chaos that have taken place in Congo. And as you know, for the last few years, there have been a war or a competition to win mineral resources around the world between China and the US. And the US is now to start receiving the mineral resources from the Congo. Congo has opened the door to the US. And when Congo opened the door to the US, it also means that the door for China is doing what? Is closing, right? So there is a conflict, and China is another powerful country that we also see itself as the loser here. They had an opportunity to be in this country for many years, but the thing is, they didn't do great. They didn't care much about the development of the country or caring about the local people. They didn't care much about the peace in the country. In reality, the only thing that they wanted is the minerals. Individual Chinese will go in the country, use their mafia and take minerals and so on. That is another part that is powerful. And then you have international organizations that have operated in Congo for many years. These international organizations have been serving themselves in the country, whether this is directly in Congo or through neighboring countries, benefited a lot of minerals. And Congo being in in chaos, it means that people getting whatever they want in a very cheap price. And then you have individual that I've mentioned, whether these are individual outside or in Congo. Then you have other neighboring countries that have been able to benefit from what has been happening in Congo. Remember when I said the distractions of Congo means opportunity for neighboring countries. Countries such as Kenya, these are the countries that have received some of these terrorist groups. AFC actually proclaimed themselves as a rebel group in Kenya. Countries such as Uganda also play a role in supporting rebel and terrorist groups, working with Rwanda, and also accommodate M23, occupied Goma before, and when they left the country in 2013, they went to Uganda. So most of these countries also have their benefits in these. All these movements, all this chaos, all these rebellions and terrorist groups, whatever they take to these countries. Now, from this moment, have you heard how many parties I have mentioned that seem to have their hand on the Congo, and also that we feel losing, and how powerful they are? Imagine if you stop them. And I didn't mention about other organizations in the region. This is almost all the powers of the world. We are talking about the power of the world. United States of America, China, European Union, international organizations, whether these are businesses, companies, charities, neighboring countries, many powerful individual people in Congo. You have churches. Congo is attacked almost on every side. This country don't even have a chance to breathe. Now you can think about why the US Congo Peace Mineral deal is seen as a problem to many. The reason it is a problem because the coming of the US Congo Peace deal means that all these parties I have mentioned may not be able to use the same route they were using in order to cause a chaos in Congo. And when the USA comes in Congo, the Congo will be more organized. The justice will serve the people. And when people are organized, this is when you see a country developing, people working hard to transform their country. And this is the fear that many of these groups have. And the greatest thing here is that Congo is dealing with the police of the world, the United States of America, right? The country on top of all the good and perhaps all the evil. If they are against you, you are finished. If they are with you, you are on top of the hill. It means that if they say no, everybody else in the world starts questioning themselves. Whether you are the UN, whether you are the European Union, whether you are African Union, whether you are an individual country, for example, because of the contribution that the US have on the UN cannot oppose what the US says. So Congo hits where they needed to hit. And some people say it's like a miracle. The coming of Trump appear to be like a miracle for the DRC. And it's like something that the Congo needed for many years. Somebody who can come in the country and say, I will die for this country. A president who's willing to go all the way to fight all these parties, I'm telling you, and stay firm to try to see this through. It requires a lot, as you would imagine, a lot of effort. President Tshisekedi, there was a time he was renamed as a tourist president. He traveled to many countries around the world. He went even twice, 3 times in one particular country, looking for peace. Which country he never went to that he felt had an influence or could help Congo? He went in many areas. He tapped many organizations. He traveled to almost all the neighboring countries, but most of them were turning their back on him, and they choose to link themselves with Rwanda. So the reason why the US Congo Peace Mineral deal is a problem is because it seems to be something that will shut doors for many people that have been operating wrongly in the Congo. Many organizations, many countries, individual people will not continue to do what they have been doing for all these years. It will be the end of Rwanda to enter the Congo whenever they like, as they have done the last 30 years. The European Union will choose whether to continue supporting Rwanda or to link themselves with the US and the Congo. neighboring countries. We decide their fate, whether to lose the support of the international communities, including the US, by continuing to position themselves how they have been positioning themselves, or to choose peace and say, you know what, if there's a rebels coming in our country, we arrest them. We have nothing to do with that. We want peace, right? All these individual people I have mentioned, in and out of the country, organizations, we choose to operate properly. And we decide either to operate in the right way or to continue operating the way they have been doing all these years. This is why you see there are discussions in the media, there are talks, a lot of movement happening, right? M23 did not come out of vacuum. When they actually took Goma, this was a risk that have cost them. Today it proved that it has cost them, it has cost Rwanda, because Rwanda decided to send more than 5,000 soldiers in the Congo. That is just the estimation of the UN, and when they say that, they are probably more than that, because they have been operating in the Congo for many, many years. And these guys enter the Congo whenever they like. So this is the problem. And many of these countries, many of these individuals, many of these organizations will not have a problem if they are to operate in the right way. Because remember what I said, Congo is like a vast ocean where everybody can come and make a profit and contribute to the development of this country. So there is a bright side of this. Anyone who wants to do good, anyone who wishes to operate in the right way, we still have the opportunity to operate in Congo. If you are a well-established business, organization, company, you can still go in Congo and do business in a right way. And that won't be a problem. The president of Congo has said that the door is open. You just have to come through the big door. That's what he said. Because many have been using the windows. If you come through the big door, there's a small piece for everybody. You imagine this is a country with more than 100 million of the population. These are opportunities in terms of business. The location of the Congo is amazing. Being a country in the heart of Africa is one of the countries which share more neighboring countries in Africa. So the prosperity of the Congo is the prosperity of not just many neighboring countries, but the world too. Because what the Congo possesses contributes a lot to the world. You are told the River Congo is able to produce electricity for almost half of Africa. That is just River Congo alone. So you can see the contribution or the beauty that can come with the Congo. Many people can do business in Congo. Many countries can benefit from this investment. But what I want to say is that Congolese people should not think that the coming of the US will change their entire lives. No, the coming of the US can provide an opportunity. It is up to the Congolese work hard in order to transform their country. Yes, these groups have also the responsibility to make sure that the peace deal agreement between the US and Congo take place, respected, and supports measures that will be put in place in order to see Congo stand on its feet. Because without them, this country can still fail to stand up. Something that I want to point out is that this is not mainly the gain for Congo. I have mentioned what other countries, individual and organization can benefit from the Congo. But on the African continent level, there is also a loss. As the US Congo Peace Deal continue to show that Africans cannot see something greater of Africa and cherish it. Something as great as the Congo, but many of these countries have failed to put the effort together to support Congo stand on its feet, develop, which can provide the development and the benefit of many countries. But yet, the same masters have to come to be the one to find the solution for these countries. And these countries have to run outside of Africa to look for savior. Why? Because African Union is unable to deal with problems like this. So Africans should start questioning themselves, their conscience, their thoughts, the way they operate, individuals, countries, organizations. If Africans are not able to call what is terrible as terrible, come together when something terrible is happening to a particular country and they all go against it, then Africa will never ever be in a position where they can take things in their own hand and resolve them. African countries can speak about African problem, African solutions, but the problem is that you can never find the solutions for yourselves as long as you're still receiving money coming from outside. Those who give you the money, those who give you aid, those who contribute to African Union, we always have a say on the decisions you make. It is until when you found a way to do your own thing with your own money and effort, then you'll be in a position where you can decide what you want to do with your countries. It is until African Union is able to say this particular president is attacking this country, we have to mobilize the army and remove it, or to exclude him from any form of business with any African countries. If he's a rebel or a terrorist group, they look at the cause, African Union mobilize the army, go after this rebel group and demolish it. If the problems are left for each country to deal with on its own, then these problems will continue to be. Because those who cause the problems will continue to try to cause the problems in order to continue controlling these countries. I'm sure now you can ask yourself whether this USA Congolese Peace Mineral deal is a great thing or a bad thing. If it's a bad thing, why do you think it's a bad thing? And something I want to add is that when I mention about African countries running somewhere else for help, you have to remember that Congo was left with no choice here. For the last 30 years, African countries did not come together to support this country to end this conflict. Many of these organizations around the world I already mentioned, they never came together to finish this conflict. It means that if Congo had another choice, they wouldn't go to the US. I've seen African brothers and sisters, like I said in the other episode, bullying Congolese government, bullying the Congolese, saying all nonsense things about the Congo, how they have sold their country to the US, the time when African countries should try to be more independent. Which country of Africa is independent? Or which country around the world that has no business with other countries? So this is not about the deal itself, because we have seen countries such as Senegal, Liberia, and other few countries recently went to the US. And they also presented their minerals. They need help from the US to invest in their countries, to work in their countries. We didn't see people mocking these countries. We didn't see people saying all nonsense. And this is why I said all these bad publicities, medias that you see, all the noise that people try to make sure that this deal seems very bad for the Congo so that Congo can abandon it. That is not the way forward. We need to change the way we think. We need to change the way we see things. You as an individual person, you have to always look in your conscience. What good, what bad have you done? As I was saying, unfortunately, until when Africans think about this deeply, otherwise African countries will continue to run somewhere else for their own solutions. And this is one of the reasons why you see the talk between Congo and M23 is taking place in Qatar. Small country in the Middle East, a problem that a continent failed to resolve. African Union leaders are now on the bench being praised for their efforts rather than them being the one to execute the actual deal. This will continue until Africans change their way of seeing and doing things. These need to be educated from school, starting at the bottom of the education. It's not going to come from the vacuum. Education systems need to change. To make change to institutions, starting from the bottom. Political parties and governance need to change to benefit the Africans. So I hope I have answered this question. I hope you understand why this USA Congolese Peace Mineral deal is a problem to many than you would have imagined. I want to leave you with this. When you hear negative things about the Congo, about these deals, use your common sense. Think about who's saying what. Where is the information coming from? Look through this group I have mentioned in this talk. If you go through these groups I have mentioned here and you find that one of these guys or these organizations or groups are involved, then you know what it is. So don't be fooled by what you hear in the media. And it doesn't matter the position of an individual or an organization or a country. You just have to think deep who is saying what, right? I hope you took some sense out of this deal. Let's support the Congo in this deal. Let's hope that there will be great things coming out of this deal. You have to celebrate this. You imagine all the terrible things that I've told you happened to the Congo. If this deal can stop all these things I have mentioned, can you not be happy about that? Can you not feel that as a great thing? Can you not want to be part of that celebration? And it is what we should do, to wish the Congo good luck, because the benefit of Congo will be the benefit of many countries, not only neighboring countries, but many countries around the world. Because the resources that Congo has, whether it's the forest, the water, cobalt, diamond, are the resources of the world. The world needs them. So I hope you continue to spread this message as a human being. We have to do our best to continue being better people. When there is something not great happening, don't always think this is happening far away from my country. That can be your country one day. There are countries that you never imagined they will be in chaos, they will be in war, they will be in conflict, but they found themselves in a very terrible things. Who imagine it? That's a country in Europe will invade another country in Europe. Again, what you have seen between Russia and Ukraine. I appreciate you for listening. I hope to see you next time in the future episode. Once again, my name is Balozi Ezrak. Please spread this message with others. Leave your thoughts. Help to improve this podcast. We want to improve day by day. We are here to exchange thoughts. That's what we do here. Please follow our social networks, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Just type Andunda Tree, and our website is andundatree.com. Until next time, one love, one love, one love.